Thanks to the 2008 financial crisis and the subsequent Great Recession, 10 million people lost their homes to foreclosure and were forced out onto the streets. One minute they were working toward the American dream, the next they were just trying to survive the night. One of the people caught up in that foreclosure crisis was former TV producer Patrick Lovell, who we'll be speaking to in just a moment. When the financial crisis struck in 2008, Lovell found himself jobless and with a mortgage he couldn't afford. So he set out to make a documentary about why the American dream had eluded him and millions of other Americans. Take a look.
Since 2000, you have taken home more than $480 million. That's almost $500 million. And that's difficult to comprehend for a lot of people. Your company is now bankrupt. Our economy is in a state of crisis. But you get to keep $480 million. I have a very basic question for you. Is this fair?
Despite what I see every day on TV, I never thought it would be easy. I never thought the world owed me anything. But I did believe in myself and the American dream. I only half knew what I was getting myself into. Not because I didn't do the research or didn't have my head on straight, but standing on the other side of this, all of the chaos gives way to clarity and an epiphany is realized. What do you do when you wake up one day and you understand that everything you believed in is not exactly true? You do something about it.
Joining me now to talk more about Forward 13, Waking Up the American Dream and the motivation behind it, is Patrick Lovell, filmmaker, writer. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. And if I can just do a little schmoozing off the top, I think you're the brightest mind in the entire spectrum of media, and it's an absolute honor and privilege to be speaking with you this evening.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Tell us more about your story. How did the 2008 financial crisis affect you and your family?
Well, you know, it hit me out of the blue, man. I was a producer on a national television show where I was actually giving away homes to people all across the country. It was a nationally syndicated television show and cleared 97% of the market. And I gave away something with my colleagues along the lines of about 26 homes in a year-and-a-half span. And suddenly in August of 2007, this company that was funding our show, a big-time residential developer out of Seattle, went belly up overnight. And if I would have known what was on the other side, I would have tuck-tailed and ran the other way. But instead, because I was a business development guy, I had been in production for a long time, I sought an investor to help me launch my company. At the time I was married, I had a house, a wonderful family, my son, and we were living what I considered at the time the 101 version of the American dream. And the only thing that could make it better was to get independent. And so I found an investor. But as time was moving forward between 2007 and 2008, the playing field was melting down around me. And it became harder and harder to just kind of do the bread and butter projects, if you will, bread and butter projects. And I finally landed an investor, and we were set to do a deal on literally September 15th, 2008. And I'll never forget it as long as I live, because I was in an arm's length of achieving the American dream the day the American dream died.
Wow. I want to play another clip from the documentary. Check this out. Take a look at this.
I was finally having the opportunity to fulfill my American dream, to become a filmmaker. But the irony that it was coming as a result of having to live through my nightmare was beyond my comprehension. I now knew I had to break out of my own personal bubble, my own space, and connect with America on her terms. But to understand what happened to America, you first have to understand what America is. To me, America has always been about freedom, opportunity, liberty, and justice for all. But at its core—
So Patrick, what happened to freedom, opportunity, liberty, and justice for all?
Well, as you state so eloquently on a daily basis, which I tune into quite frequently, Tom, it got buried. It got buried by short-term thinking, you know, a laissez-faire sort of approach to Wall Street based on fraud that we found out, you know, several years after the fact, trillions and trillions of dollars of fraud. You know, I was just thinking today, Tom, if mainstream media, or as many of your viewers and I like to call them, lamestream media, had spent as much time on the Wall Street crisis and everything that's happened since as they do on Flight 370, I think the American people would be much more informed to that question, Tom.
Yeah, I think you're right. When you traveled the country and heard other people's experiences, what struck you most?
Well, it didn't matter who we spoke with. If we spoke to somebody that was on the highest end of the spectrum, highly educated, well off, or people on the downside of the system, they all tended to say the same thing. And everybody was pointing a finger at this system that blew up, and quite frankly, as we all know, should have completely failed in 2008. And instead, of course, was Band-Aid together like Humpty Dumpty. And now we got a problem on our hands that was even worse then. But I believe that the world was revealed for what it is in 2008, and now it's up to us, we the people, to wake up and wake up to what's going on. Because if we don't change this stuff now, Tom, like your guest in the previous segment said, we don't have any time. And
right.
That's what Forward 13 is all about, is waking up the American dream.
So how can people see the whole documentary, Forward 13?
Tomorrow actually tonight, we're going to have our broadcast premiere on Free Speech TV, I believe, following this program, and which is amazing. I watch Free Speech TV all the time, and the documentaries are spectacular. And then tomorrow, we're having our theatrical premiere that's going to take place during the Socially Relevant Film Festival, which will take place at 5 p.m. in Greenwich Village. And so I would encourage anybody who had attended Occupy Wall Street. In the film, we had gone to 23 Occupy Wall Street movements throughout the country. We did about 7,500 miles on our journey, and our timing was unbelievable. We literally started filming the day that Occupy Wall Street started, and we got to Zuccotti Park the day that the NYPD broke it up. So our timing was magnificent, but Occupy Wall Street became somewhat of an undercurrent and a supporting character in our quest to find the truth. And I think when your viewers see it, a lot of your viewers are, of course, very sophisticated thanks to your program. But hopefully it'll fill in the blanks from a voice that represents really many of us, because there are a million of us that got hammered by this, and it's time for us to hopefully galvanize, and I think that we're moving towards that. In fact, our film, quite frankly, is a prologue to a movement we're trying to build called the Everyman Super PAC, that we have a plan to try to end the revolving door at the state level, quite frankly.